This is The Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on The Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series. Welcome to The Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series. As this is our very first episode of The Baseload, we're going to cover the basics about solar power because there seems to be quite a bit of confusion about solar power, renewable energy and the grid in general. So to bring you up to speed with everything to do with solar power, renewable energy and the grid, we have resident expert Michael Tierney with us each week. Michael is currently teaching the electrical trade certificate at TAFE here in Sydney and is a licensed solar installer and a very knowledgeable bloke in the arena. Welcome to The Baseload, Michael Tierney.
Oh, hi, Troy.
So let's start with an obvious question. This program is called The Baseload, and we hear this term bandied around a lot, baseload power and all that sort of thing. So, Michael, in simple terms, what is the baseload?
The baseload is the amount of power that we're going to need every day, day in, day out, to provide our electrical needs or energy needs, yeah.
Right, so for the average home, for example.
Yeah, well, the average home, every day the average home would consume, say, 23 kilowatt hours of electricity.
Okay, so to put that into terms that are easier to understand, because 23 kilowatt hours probably for most people is a pretty abstract concept, how much power is 23 kilowatt hours? If that's the average three-bedroom house sort of thing, how does that stack up? What's that look like?
Well, it's just think of it as a number, 23.
Okay.
And think of your kettle, which would be 2 kilowatts.
Okay.
So if you were to run your kettle for 1 hour at 2 kilowatts, you would be using 2 kilowatt hours.
Right, okay.
Now, yeah, and if you were to run an LED light bulb that uses 10 watts and you would run that for 1 hour, it would be 10 watt hours, which is a lot, like 40 times less than that kettle, for example.
Right. Because LEDs are super efficient, aren't they? Because they don't hardly drag any current. It's all milliamps, isn't it?
They're very, very low energy consumption for the amount of light that they produce.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to help in your overall mix. But to create this 23 kilowatts that we need to run our average house in this example, how many solar panels, for example? Let's talk about solar power. How many solar panels? What sort of system do you need to provide that? And how much of that power can be provided by solar panels?
We're all familiar, I think, with what a solar panel is. I mean, there's so many houses in the suburbs and around that have solar panels on the roof.
Yeah.
And everyone sort of says, oh, how many panels do I need to run this? How many whatever? So in general, I suppose if you were going to provide that 23 kilowatt hours, you'd probably need about 5 kilowatt hours of solar panels, which would be, say, about 20 solar panels, for example. Okay,
so when you say 5 kilowatt hours of solar panels, that's the power rating of those panels, is it, for example? So what that produces, it can produce 5 kilowatt hours, per hour or per hour of sunlight? Is that how it works?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It can produce 5 kilowatt hours of electricity. If the sun was at its perfect position and everything was perfect, it would produce 5 kilowatt hours every hour that you have that condition.
As long as you've got sunlight. Okay, so how that stacks up, just doing some simple numbers, if you've got a 5 kilowatt system and you've got 5 hours of direct sunlight through the middle of the day, for example, there's 25 kilowatt hours and, you've covered the base load. Is that right?
Well, you've nailed the maths.
Yeah.
Covering the base load. Well,
I didn't even use a calculator.
No calculator.
I thought about it. Yeah. No, but so that seems like a fairly simple equation. To set up a 5 kilowatt system, is that expensive? Or is that a big investment?
No, I don't think it's a big investment. Solar power is really quite cheap for the price per watt, for example.
Okay.
The trouble is for lots of people, it's difficult to go and actually have all the money to buy that electricity in advance. It's like the old thing, like if only I could have all the money I'm going to earn in my life at the beginning of my life, how much better life would be.
Yeah, right. Okay, so there still is a a barrier to entry in terms of cost because you have to buy the whole system in one go. So that's a higher price. So off the top of your head, Michael, what is a 5K system worth in general terms?
Let's say $10,000.
Okay, and is that a complete system?
Yeah, that'd be supplied, installed, and
okay. So if you're again, let's just say an average family home, they've got a 3-bedroom home, they've got a little bit of equity in the house. You could draw down possibly $10,000 and put that up on your roof. How much money is that going to save you over time? Do you think? How does that work?
Well, I tell you, you're buying your electricity. You'll know what you're going to be paying for it because you're actually paying for it there and then. Mm-hmm. So as the future comes along and things change and all of a sudden we're paying twice as much per kilowatt in 5 years, well, you're still paying that amount of money that you paid for it earlier.
Yeah, okay. So you amortize that cost over time and I'm imagining that just becomes an ever-decreasing amount of money that you're paying for your power. It seems very logical that solar power is a good investment. So where does the grid fit into this?
Well, the grid, of course, is providing a reliable electricity all the time. I mean,
baseload power.
If you have solar panels in your house and you've got 5 kilowatt hours or 5 kilowatts of solar or whatever like this, you need to have electricity at the night time. I mean, where's that going to come from? It's not coming from the sun. Mm-hmm. The moon's not going to generate enough for you.
Right.
And you have to have some backup. I mean, and what we're doing is we're interconnected with the grid. Can
people still sell their power off their rooftop from their solar panels back into the grid? How does that work?
Yeah, well, what happens is as you're producing power from your solar panels, that's running down into your switchboard, it's running out to all of the appliances or your loads, and we're using what we need to use. I mean, if you turn the light on, it's going to use power with the kettle on. But at some times, you're going to be producing more electricity from your solar panels than you need.
Okay.
Or you might go down to the shops or something. So
or you might be away for the weekend, or
absolutely. I mean, and you'll go on holidays, whatever. What's going to happen to that electricity? Well, you've got two options. One is you can just not use it, and therefore it just goes to waste. Or the other option is you can actually sell that back through a retailer, electricity retailer, into the grid, and someone else can use that power, and they make their money in the exchange of buying and selling.
So is that the same in all states in Australia at the moment, or is that just New South Wales?
Yeah, so in all states, electricity works the same in every state of Australia. Mm-hmm. So
technically,
the technical side of things,
on, the light goes on. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Turn the light on, the lights come on. They're wired. I mean, the standards are the same.
But the buying and selling is different. Is that right? Is that what we've seen in South Australia and Victoria? And everyone's got different systems. And obviously, international listeners, there's all sorts of different ways that power is presented to the people, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a market. That's not actually the system, for example.
Okay.
I mean, the system would be what is wires and realities of physics and the like. Mm-hmm. The market is what they're buying and selling this stuff. That's a human concept and it's there for business, and I suppose they do that in regards to how they're going to get investment into things.
And as we know, there's a power market now, isn't there, where it used to be just the government provided electricity, but now it's all competitive. It's a competitive arena and a trade market. So how do people find out what the deal is in their neck of the woods, for example? What would you recommend people do in terms of research?
Look, I think the best thing is we're talking about your average house, and we're talking about average people like myself and yourself. Mm-hmm. And what are we really interested in? We're not really interested in big solar farms and nuclear reactors or anything like that. What we want is we want to do something. We want to either save some power and money. We want to get control of our energy use. Mm-hmm. We want to do something for the environment. We want to do something just logical. I mean, here, all this energy is available and we can use it. Mm. Why not? And can I afford it? So the best thing is, to answer your question, is how am I going to go about starting? And I think the best thing to do is to start off with some local people who are doing this business and use your usual ways of going about buying things. It's like, if you want to get a new kitchen, you're going to call up some local things, look in the local paper. I don't know how people go about their ways of doing it, but that's generally the way I see it.
Okay. So, look, today on the Baseload, we're obviously aiming to cover as many top notes on the whole energy matrix as possible. So, to change tack, let's open Pandora's box on house batteries. What's the story with house batteries, and how do they fit into this whole picture?
Well, house batteries and battery storage, energy storage in general, this is something that's really going to change everything.
Okay.
And the reason is all of a sudden those solar panels you got on your roof, and you said before about, can we sell the power back, when do we have it? Is there sun out? Is it night time? All of a sudden we've got ourselves like a rainwater tank.
Right.
It doesn't rain all the time,
No.
but we can have a big tank storing that water, or a battery storing that energy, so that we can use it and draw on it as we need it. So this is where batteries are coming in. The technology is really advancing rapidly, and it's becoming very viable, and it's actually creating a bit of a disturbance in that energy market and in that space.
Well, it's a hot topic at the moment, and I just want to just say something about the Baseload here. We're not interested in the political debate here. We're much more interested in the technical, the business, the cost factors of these emerging technologies and what they can do for you. So we're not interested in getting into the whole political debate about renewables versus coal or anything like that. But we are looking at the big picture from a technical perspective. And it seems that, from a very logical standpoint, having as you say, like a water tank kind of system, a trickle feed system into a storage unit, a battery in this instance, is a very logical thing to do.
Absolutely, it's logical. I mean, it's as logical as having that rainwater tank.
It is. We're going to come back in a minute after a word from our sponsors and talk more about this house battery phenomenon. This is the Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on the Baseload, your solar-powered podcast series. So, having covered the absolute basics, let's move on to the practical considerations of installation. This clearly isn't a DIY job unless you're a licensed electrician. So, what do our listeners need to know about having a system installed, Michael?
The best thing to do is to consult someone who is an expert in your local area and who is aware of, what best needs you have. And, of course, like anything and like any professional or tradesperson, you need to find someone who you can have a good relationship with, but who also has those qualifications to back themselves up.
Right. So you should check out the qualifications of these people because, there have been some dodgy things that have happened in the past with solar rebates and all that sort of stuff. So going forward at the moment, what do you need to check? Like, is it like checking a licensed builder sort of thing? Is it, or a plumber or something?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a licensed electrician.
Right.
I've only ever been asked once in my entire life for my license.
Right, okay.
People do take it on. They can see, of course, and when you're talking, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. But is he really licensed? The license is one part of it, and you should definitely make sure that person has a license.
Yeah, right, okay.
And the person must have a license for your insurances and all the other things.
All of that stuff, yeah. So solar power installers, is it a separate ticket on top of your electrician's trade certificate, or can we check that up on a government website? How does that work?
I think as a legal state thing, you need to have a licensed electrician to do any work which is involved with the sort of voltage levels we're talking about here with solar panels, which is basically what is your house. So you do need to have a license from the electrical side of things. On the solar side of things, you actually don't really need to have any sort of special license, but in order to tap into the rebates or the other things available from the government and to do with solar, you need to have an accreditation. Okay. And also that accreditation also can say, hey, I know what I'm doing. I've done all the required modules and training required.
Yeah.
I've got experience, and away you go.
Yeah, so it's like buying anything really, isn't it? You do your due diligence on your tradespeople and hopefully generate a good relationship with them so they can come and add to it or repair or or whatever. So how long does it take? Again, going back to our simple 3-bedroom house, how long does it take to put up your 5K system and switch on an LED light?
Yeah, well, if me and my team got into your place, you'd have a cup of coffee in the morning, and by the time we're finished with the end of the day, you'd be producing solar power.
Right. Okay. So it's a day, a clear day. Yeah. So that's pretty efficient too, isn't it? It's not like a house renovation or a, I think there's a perception out there that it takes quite a bit of time and there's a lot of construction, but that's not the case, obviously.
No, there is some preparation that needs to be done. You need to get approvals to connect it to the network and and things like that. But the actual work,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen very quickly.
Okay, so our house owner needs to apply to council, so I'm putting a solar system on. Is that what happens?
I think you need to be aware that there could be some restrictions, and therefore you need to do those steps. Just basically a phone call to the local council or authority to say, hey, can I do this? And I tell you, most of the time it's already all pre-approved that people can do this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, that seems pretty straightforward, how to get it installed. Now, I know from our conversations recently that you're very positive about the grid and its importance, and it seems sometimes renewables and the grid seem to be opposed to each other. But your view is more inclusive. How do you see all these things working together?
Well, I kind of think let's go back to the water tank.
Okay.
Let's say that I have a water tank, my neighbour has a water tank, and we all have water tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all connected together, so we're actually sharing our resources together. That's more of a community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we're doing that, I think that empowers us a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And why are we living in communities? Because it's very difficult to survive totally on our own and provide absolutely everything we need ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the grid is the same. It's that network between us all.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I think? You're going away for a couple of weeks and your panels are still producing solar power.
Mm-hmm.
I might need a little bit extra power to run my place.
Yeah.
So I can buy or swap power from you and use it for me. And then later on I can give some back to you. I mean, so the grid can operate as a way of us sharing and meeting our needs. Ultimately, that's what we really need. We want a cup of tea in the morning. We want to be able to have a nice lifestyle, a quality of living, and that's why we do all this stuff,
So if there's more and more solar power that's overflowing, shall we say, back into the grid after people are using it, say the battery's full and the panels are still, outputting and it's going back into the grid, does that conceivably mean over time that we'll actually have less dependency on nuclear, coal, and the traditional power sources, hydropower? So is that how it works? Does the electricity actually rebalance that?
Yeah. Well,
coming off the panels and stuff? Is that?
Yeah. Well, so it's like anything. I mean, we're coming back to what about the grid and why I sort of like that idea. I like the idea that we can share our resources. And if something was to happen to my battery and it was to break, I can be using some from you.
Right. So the grid is the safety net, really, and it is a great way of sharing the overall resource, obviously, because it's, it comes from power providers, but it allows the consumer to make a contribution in a lot of ways. Yeah. Yeah.
It allows us to take that power back, and I don't talking about electrical power. I'm talking about our own power. I mean, we've become more. I suppose it's like a kind of democracy. And rather than having one guy, the king, who produces all the energy and you pay him for it, the Mr. Burns sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
And we're paying for it. With nothing wrong with paying for things.
Yeah.
But we do really like to be in a bit more control of something that is actually so important to our daily life.
Yeah, cool. Now, on this idea of incorporating certain energy-saving strategies in your home, like we were talking about LED lamps and things like that, you've said to me recently that the initial design of a home or a renovation can substantially reduce the amount of power required, which is, I guess, the simplest way to save energy is use less of it, right? So what sort of design elements are we talking about there?
Yeah, well, so people are building homes and you can build them in many different ways. And, of course, once again, there's costs. So you have to think about what can I afford to build. But it's a great idea, and there is standards about the energy level. You know, we've got these star ratings and basics. And
are they very accurate, those star ratings, or are they just sales pitchy things? Because you see them on fridges and washing machines and everything, microwaves and whatever, kettles.
Yeah, well, the first thing I thought is, what is the story with this? And so I grabbed myself a meter, which I could actually measure it, and I stuck it on one of these things for quite a long time.
Oh, okay.
And I worked it out, and I was really quite surprised. It is quite accurate.
Okay, so those energy ratings, so you tested them yourself, and they're accurate. So going out and paying the extra $100 to get an energy-rated fridge that's got a high, energy efficiency rating will save you money, actually.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Will save you energy.
Save you energy, yeah, which in turn will save you money as well. And so, but what about these specific design elements? Now, we're talking about LED lights. Now, LED lights are super efficient, and I imagine you could substantially reduce your power bills by installing LEDs in your home instead of the old incandescents or even the gas tube lights or whatever. What's the go there? How easy is it? Expensive to swap all your lights over to LEDs?
No, LED lighting has become so affordable and so reliable in the last couple of years. It's basically incandescent lights are not even legal to be sold anymore.
Oh, is that right? I didn't even know that.
They had a halogen lights, which is a sort of what you'd see in your old sort of down lights, the ones that get quite hot, the ones that get replaced a lot by LEDs.
The track lighting, the little round track lights and stuff, they're halogen.
Yeah, you can still buy them, but also they're only sold on a reduced amount of watts compared to what they used to be, and they're probably going to be the next thing on the hit list to get banned, because at the end of the day, you had a 60-watt incandescent light bulb, and now you could have 6 LED lights. So it's just like all of a sudden you could almost run your whole house of what would have been the same as being one light bulb before.
Of one lamp,
one lamp.
Your reading lamp by your bed. So it's that drastic a difference. So everybody should be using LED lights. That's just a given.
Yeah, well, you'll get your money back very, very quickly.
Right.
And not only that, they last for so long. The last thing you want to do is stand up on a chair to change your light bulb and the thing falls over and you break your leg. I mean, so there's all sorts of other things about the reliability of these things. It's not just I'm saving energy. It's I don't have to maintain these things.
Because they last a long time, LEDs. They've got a long life, yeah. And now can you get LED lights that just like bayonet mount that just go straight into your normal light sockets and stuff, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Normal screw mounts and bayonet mounts. You don't need to replace all of that stuff?
Yeah, you don't have to replace those things. Although it's a nice opportunity to go out and spoil yourself with some nice new light fittings.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's that as well, isn't it? And particularly if you're designing something from scratch, what about smart systems for houses and that sort of thing? Is the technology really there with that kind of thing yet, or are we still catching up on that?
Oh no, there's definitely smart systems, as in interconnected with computer-controlled sort of devices. I mean, using your phones and apps. It depends on what you want. I like a simple sort of life myself, and I'm happy to turn switches off and have a simple dimmer.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of people do like to have a bit more of a smart connected home, and that can learn even what you like, or you can push one switch and turn everything off. And,
Okay.
Yeah, so it's all available and it's affordable.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is very interesting stuff and just the very tip of the iceberg here at the Baseload. Over the coming weeks, we will go into far more depth on these topics with our in-depth probing of this exciting evolution in the way we use, market and generate power for our homes, businesses and for our lives. If you have any questions, please just send us an email to the info@thebaseload.com. That's info@thebaseload.com, and we'll respond to your inquiries and may even feature your questions on the show. Now, before we go, we're also going to dispel some myths about free energy machines and some of the wacky stuff we hear about online, Michael. So all these kind of free energy machines and so on. I mean, do any of them actually work? I guess that's the question. We hear about Tesla coils and all these kind of things, but has anyone ever built one that actually works? I mean, solar panels work, wind power works. We know that. But free energy machines, one word answer. what would you say? Do they work?
No.
Okay. Generally, they don't work.
Generally, they don't work. Well, I've never seen one or heard of anything. And
Right. But we have some interesting examples of things that people are claiming that work, like we've seen YouTube videos and stuff. So as we're going forward with the series, we're going to have a look at a couple of these things and try and make them and see and prove once and for all that they're hoaxes. And so that's it for episode 1 of The Baseload. If you'd like a copy of our free solar power guide, just go to thebaseload.com and follow the prompts, and we will send it to you absolutely free. In it, you'll find loads of quality technical information explained in an easy-to-understand format. Or check us out on The Baseload on YouTube, where all of our information will be available 24/7, absolutely free of charge. So that's it from us at The Baseload. Thank you, Michael.
thank you, Troy.
And that's the end of The Baseload for this week, and more power to you.
This is The Baseload. Sorting the facts from the fiction. Discover the truth about solar power, renewables, and the grid on The Baseload, your solar power podcast series.